Howdy, my name is Isaiah, and I am here once again to show everyone how to use Putty, the service that Windows users utilize so that we can access A&M's servers, which is necessary because that is what all of the homework will be tested on. So, here we go. First step, as with everything, is to install Putty. Now, if you're a Mac user, there is a separate procedure for that. Putty does not work on Mac. Instead, you need to use a terminal in some fashion that I'm unsure of because I'm a Windows user. I apologize. However, for the Windows users, you better listen up because this is about the only way we can get in. I will be also using the VPN services, which if you've already gone to lab, you've already heard of them. I'm just going to reiterate what should have been done in lab here. First thing we need to do, if you were on campus, is you would just need to search for Putty, and one of the first few links is putty.org. Click on that, and then you will be greeted with a download Putty here. Select your relevant operating system. Generally, go with 64-bit, at least if you've recently bought your laptop. Otherwise, if you have an older one, maybe go to the 32-bit. Once you downloaded Putty, which should take a couple seconds, then you would run Putty. It would install itself. Not a whole lot would happen. For people at home who would be trying to access Putty from, say, an apartment or an off-campus location, you need the VPN service, or Virtual Private Network. In A&M's case, we use Cisco to link your computer over the internet back to a secure A&M server, which allows you to use Putty when you are off campus and not connected to the TamuLink internet. For example, if I were to attempt to run Putty, this is what it shows up as when you first generate it. For our purposes, the IP address that we will be using to connect to the A&M servers is compute.cse.tamu.edu. Once that has been done, you should be able to click Open, which will generate this window. Now, obviously nothing's happening. That's because I'm on my own personal Wi-Fi network, which is unauthorized. So I'm going to close that for now and back to the browser. So what you need to do is you need to go to a website of A&M's called connect.tamu.edu. Click enter, and you will be sent to this page. This is where Duo comes in. I have my phone right next to me. Of course, you cannot see that. But you would log in using your NetID and a password. You will then get a prompt from Duo on your phone that will log you in to be able to install Cisco. You click on this. It'll take a little bit. Once that is done, you would run it with all of the standard settings, of course. once that is completed, you can access it. Its full name being Cisco AnyConnect Secure Mobility Client. Once you have generated, or rather once you have installed it, you will see something similar to this, except this will be blank, like that. In order to connect back to A&M, you simply use the same email address, or rather web address, that you used to get this client in the first place. So connect.tamu.edu, hit connect. You will then be prompted once again for your username and password. Get your phone out because Duo will also prompt, so hit OK. You'll get a Duo prompt, and until you approve it, you will not be allowed in. Cisco may have some updates. It does. Okay. In the meanwhile, so what Putty connects you to is what we like to call the H drive. So on my computer, I already have the H drive set up. That should have been set up in lab. It's one of the more fairly straightforward things to set up. But if you don't know how to do that, you simply right-click really anywhere on the File Explorer, hit Add a Network Location. Next, choose a custom network location. My bad. That's not how you do it. You come into computer. My bad. So you come on the top, hit the computer, map network drive, click on it. You'll be prompted for a name for the drive. It doesn't really matter. Then you're then given a folder. In other words, the particular thing that you want to use. Now, of course, since I already have an H drive, it's not going to work. However, for your purposes, in this where this folder is, you would have something similar to the bit in parentheses on my end. You can also set up via the settings, you can also set it up to where you don't have to log in to the H drive. Normally, that would be the case. Okay, so Cisco is finished and it's disappeared. It will have a little lock icon over it, and your internet will have changed to, instead of having a Wi-Fi bar, to having an Ethernet, like as if you were connected to the Ethernet, which is of course not the case. Once you have done that, notice how there's this red X over my H drive. If I double click it, obviously I now have this. This is a quirk with the system. If you are off campus, you will almost always, for at least while your computer is up, in other words, a session of your computer before you shut it down, you will need to go ahead and log in. When you're on campus, this will not happen. Anyway, so now I'm in my H drive, aka what Putty is looking at. So now with that done, I will retype in the address, hit enter. You'll be prompted for login as, use your net ID. This may take a little bit, there we go. And then it'll be prompted with your password. Now, do not be alarmed that nothing is happening. I promise you I am typing. It's just with Putty and its security measures, the cursor will not move whenever you're typing in your password to preserve your security. That occasionally happens as well. Another note, you can save the address. You don't have to type it in every single time. I simply have not done this yet. There we go. So the way you can tell it's done is when you get this bit along with a double colon. That's your command prompt. Now, currently, Putty stack these. Putty is looking at the same place as this, as my H drive. Now I already have a hello world set up inside of a folder called hello world. So we have to navigate to that folder. So to navigate, that's the command cd for change directory, and then the name of your folder, in my case, hello world. Hit enter, and you can tell it worked as long as I don't get an error message, as well as the folder name is now displayed on the top. So in Putty then, we are in here. Now if we say didn't have the H drive or we didn't really want to mess with it, you can alternatively type in the command ls or list, which gives you just a standard list of all of the files within this folder. Now so now that we're inside folder, how do we get out? Well, we can type in cd space minus, as I did here, to get out of the folder and get back to our primary directory. Obviously, if I tried to cd minus from here, it would, my bad. cd minus actually just kicks you back to the previous window. Does not do that. You'll have to ask me in person because I do not know off the top of my head. Anyway, so now that we're in here, one of the files that was in here was hello world.cpp. And if we take a look at that, since I have Visual Studio will generate it. Obviously, it's the same as any other hello world file. However, let's say that for the sake of things that you are simply using, you are simply using a notepad file. So let me real quick type out a fairly straightforward program real quick. That just demonstrates that it works. Okay, so now I'm going to save this. Specifically, I'm going to save it to the H drive in our hello world, and I'm going to call it test for now. Save. So at this point, you may think, oh, I'm done, right? Not quite. So you have to take an additional step in order to turn this file into a CPP. So you may notice that all of the file extensions are there. Come up here to View and select File Name Extensions. Without that, they would be like that. If you select it, it'll appear like this. This is handy because it allows you to change the file, what Windows thinks the file is. So I'm going to right-click test.txt, hit rename, click on the very right, and I'm going to take out this .txt at the very end and change it to CPP. You'll get a little error saying, hey, you're changing the file name extension. Do you want to do this? Of course, yes. And because I have Visual Studio installed, Windows is smart enough to remember, hey, this is a Visual Studio compatible file. And if I come over here, it now pops up as well and test us right there at the very end. Now, one of the main things you're going to have to do in Putty is you're going to have to compile. So the command for that is as follows. It is simply G plus plus, which is the name of the compiler that the servers use. One thing to note about the servers is that they are UNIX-based servers, UNIX being a unique operating system that we interact with via a command window. So within our UNIX operating system at A&M, we have a G++ compiler. Now, in general, you're going to want to specify the version number of the compiler just to make sure that it doesn't do some weird errors. Specifically, I like to add a dash 7.2.0, which specifies, hey, I want the 7.2.0 version of the G++ compiler. After that, you have space, a dash, std equals C++ 11. Now this right there is simply telling the compiler that, hey, this is the version of C++ that I want you to use when compiling this into an executable or into a file that I can then run. After that, add another space, type in the name of the file you want to generate an executable for. That, of course, is test.cpp in my case. Another space. And at this point, you can add a dash O, or which you'll occasionally see. However, same thing, but I'm going to use it since that's what I've been taught. And then after that, you simply note what you want your thing to be called. To reiterate, you do not need the dash O nor for this to work. Alright? That's just force of habit. Anyway, so a lot of times this will be the format is name of your .cpp and then .out. Click enter, and as nothing happens over on Putty. However, over on the H drive, we notice, hey, there's a new file. That's a notepad file. It's called test.out. Just like I said over here. Interesting. And just for context, you can also just tell the compiler to do a .exe as well, as I did with these other files. It doesn't matter, really. I'm going to actually delete it, that one, because when Unix does this, it generates a output for Unix operating system only. So even if you took that exe and moved it to another computer, it's not guaranteed to work. In fact, I would be very surprised if it did. So now that we have the file test.out, we can in fact see it as well by just typing ls again. And we can see we now have a new file, test.out. The next step, of course, is to run the file. A very simple way to do that is just to say, let's test my memory. No. Okay, 1 second. Give me 1 second here. That's what it was. Right. Okay, one other thing that I forgot to mention, I probably should. So, whenever you are typing out this command and you just don't feel like giving your output a name, you can just leave it blank and it will generate an a.out file as shown here. All that is it's simply a pre-generated name. It has the same contents as the one I already named. It's just a little bit more convenient. Now, in order to run it, you simply need to type a dot, /, and then the name of your output file. In my case, test.out. I then hit enter. And as you can see, since all the program did was a cout statement, that's all that happened. And the program terminated, and now we're back to the console window. So clearly though, it worked. Hooray, we got a file to work on Putty. So the reason we do this is because not all operating systems are created equal. Namely, Windows is different than Mac, which is different from UNIX, which is different from Ubuntu, etc., etc. Therefore, the same program may not work on all versions, or may not work on all operating systems. Now, thanks to the programming languages, we can have a similar programming language. However, the compilers that actually transform our source code into what the machine needs vary based on the operating system. Now, if I were to say, give a Windows user my .exe or whatever that I had, or my .out that I had made on my own computer, then that would probably work. If I give a Mac user my same .out file, it probably would not work because we have different operating systems. Now, one other thing that might be useful to know is how to combine files, or rather how to merge several source files into one output. Give me one moment, because I need to change this around. So I'm going to do a little bit of messing around here. Okay, don't worry about this for now. That's in functions, which we'll deal with later. For now though, I'm just trying to prove that you can in fact merge multiple files into one contiguous output. So in my case, I'm going to go ahead and tell my compiler that, hey, I want you to use hello world.cpp and test.cpp. I want you to combine them into a.out by leaving it blank. Hit enter. If all goes well, nothing should happen. And now I'm going to run that program, and since the only thing that's actually being used was in hello world, that's all that was executed, even though test.cpp did have stuff in it. Actually, give me one moment. I can actually, well, no. I'll get into that later. But for now, though, just accept that you can, in fact, generate one output for multiple source files. Make sense? Cool. The last thing I want to cover is what happens when stuff goes wrong. We'll get into specific errors as they come up. However, for the moment, let me simulate a bug that came up in Visual Studio, which is where you have two mains. Visual Studio did not like that very much. Let's see if Putty likes that. So Handy thing about Putty is if you have already entered it in a command, you simply tap the up arrow and it will retrieve a history of your previous commands, stretching out to whenever you first got Putty. If I were to hold down up, it will continue to go up to my CSCE 312 project that I did last semester. So for now, I'm going to rerun this code. Okay, we got some errors, and a.out disappeared. So that's the other thing. Whenever you recompile with Putty with the same output file name, that output file will be overwritten, or in some cases deleted. So that way you don't have to delete the output file every single time you want to make a new one. Putty will just overwrite it. Anyway, so let's see here. So we have something in main, multiple definition of main. Error. Returned 1 exit status. Now, of course, we know what that means, because I have two mains. That just doesn't make sense. That's why I had this set to be something different, right? So now, if we come back here, try again, now it works. Now, real quick, just to prove, well, no, okay. That is how to use Putty more or less. Yeah, so hang on, let me get back. Okay, so if you want to get back to your home directory, you simply tap in CD space, hold down Shift and tilde, which should be right below your escape key on your keyboard. Hit enter, and you'll be sent back to your base directory. You can tell because I can tell that because those are all the folders that I have within my base folder. So one thing that I get a lot from students is, well, Isaiah, what if I just use Visual Studio, but I make all the projects and stuff on the H drive? So to where you set up the file path to where it points to the H drive. And I would say yes and no. So here's the thing. You don't need all of Visual Studio's code, or all of Visual Studio's stuff. You just need the source files. So to that point, no, because it'll end up messing with a lot of your things. So what I personally do, let me pull up, so again, using that same file path I showed earlier. So this is my laptop's, or my personal file drive, right? So what I personally do is I go into the source folder of my project and then make a new folder over on Putty, and I simply select my CBP files and drag and drop. That's what I do. Because it's on an external drive, it automatically copies, and then I simply use Putty from there to mess with the files. That's what I do. That's what I find to be most efficient for me. Now, when you're done with Putty, simply type log out or exit. Your preference. I personally just log out. That's what I do. So with that, that's how to use Putty. Once you're done with the Cisco AnyConnect, you can simply right-click it, hit disconnect. That we can get back to your standard Wi-Fi. You can in fact just quit out. And that'll be that. But hopefully that was very informative. Thank you for watching, and hope you have a great day.